Alright guys, how's it going? If you're watching this, you've probably purchased a self-build ramp kit. And this is the 4-foot Slappy Box. All of our components set up on this table. This is everything that you're going to need to build one of the self-build kits. You've got your beam, you've got your top with your rebate for your flat bar, you've got your back, you've got your slappy front, you've got your coping for your grinds, you've got your angle for your grinds and your slides, you've got 2 side profiles, you've got 2 clamping kits for the coping, and you've got this little bag of goodies here. We've got 4 longer screws to screw the beam into the sides of the profiles. You've got the rest of the screws for the rest of the ramp. You've got 2 nuts and 4 washers. Why 4 washers? Because we know that you're going to lose at least one of them, so we've put 2 extra ones in there. You've got a bit for the screws, and you've got these 2 funky little bits, which are basically an extra set of hands, which we'll explain later in the video. And to build all of this, all you're going to need is a combi drill or an impact driver and a 17mm spanner, ratchet or socket. There you go, let's do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this back profile. Now, that's what it looks like. If you come in a little bit.
Come and have a close look.
Yeah.
So this has got holes in it, like pre-drilled.
All of them have got holes pre-drilled in them. So anything that's plywood has got holes pre-drilled into it to make it easier. Now this one is the back because it's got no angles cut on it.
So it's a square.
Yeah. And written at the top is top, and that's going to help you. So I'm going to build this the way that I would build it, and trial and error has proved that this is the best way to do it. So first thing we want to do is stand that up. Now, there's a little bit that comes in the kit. I don't know if you can see that.
That's my PZ2 driver.
That is your PZ2 driver. Now, for all of this ramp, apart from the beams, you're going to use these size screws, which are 50mm screws. And you'll see that there's a difference between these ones. If you come down here, have a little zoom in. So these long ones, there's only 4 of them, and we're going to use those for the beam. But for this part, we're using the 50mm screws. Now, what we do is we're going to lay it down with the outside facing up. And we're going to get our drill, and we're going to start these screws. And by start, I mean we're going to put them through just until the tip pokes through. So if you watch slowly, just wait for that. There you go.
There you go. Okay, so that just lifts the wood up a little bit.
So now what that's going to do is, bonk, that's just going to help us locate the screws into the holes that have already been drilled for you. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. So, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Great.
So we've got that now. You can do this on your own. It's really quite simple. So we're going to use these screws.
So we're lining up with holes in the back of that CNC profile, yeah?
So, I'm just going to turn this
Tip of
round.
your screw.
It's going to just slot into that.
Beautiful. And you should get the edge of that nice and flush.
Yeah. And then you just sort of, just going to find those holes and then grip it with your hands. You can use clamps at this point if you've got clamps. Honestly, you can use them, it'll help. And then you're just going to wind that screw in. And then 2. There you go, simple as that. And that's one side done. And then you move over to the next. It will be worth noting at this point that in these side profiles, you have this little cutout here. Now this cutout is CNC'd, which is computer numerically controlled, is that right?
I think it's something like that, yeah.
So these have been cut out to take the beam. So your beam is going to slot into there like that. So it's a no-brainer. You can't go wrong. But the only way you can go wrong is if these are on the outside. They need to be on the inside because your beam is going to slip into here. So I'll just get this one fixed quickly. So I'm going to get my screw through a little bit more. And then there's the hole.
Yeah, lovely.
So, and then I'm just going to pinch it with my hand and drive it through. That's it. It's already starting to look like a ramp. So, The next process that we're going to do is the beam.
Okay.
Literally like this.
So that should just slide down into the slot.
Into the slot.
So this beam, they've got to lift that, so it's got to be flush with the top,
This
right?
beam you're going to lift up with your hands. If you've got a friend or someone to help you, that's cool. But if not, you can do it by yourself. So don't worry, it's quite easy. It's not very heavy. But these 4 longer screws, we have 2 on this side and we have 2 on that side. So I'm just going to turn this and make myself comfortable. I'm just going to start this screw here.
And then lift that beam up so that's flush, all flush with the top surface.
Flush with the top one. There we go.
Lovely.
Lovely job. I'm just going to send this one in. And then, same again on the other side. I'm just going to start the screw. And I'm going to lift it up. And then, last of the long screws. There we go.
Boom, looking good.
So, what we want to do next is set the coping into these little roundy bits here. So we're going to put that to one side, over here, and I'll show you how to set up the coping. So this is your 4 foot length, and it's got these threaded pins that have been expertly welded. And what we're going to do, these are the coping clamping blocks. They've got a hole cut out, you can see that, and they just simply slide on and slide on. Then we're going to get 1 washer each, if you haven't lost them already. 1 on here, 1 on here, and then your nuts. Excuse me. Okay, so we start those till they're finger tight, and then whether you've got a socket or a ratchet spanner or an open ring spanner, it doesn't matter, it just has to be the right size. So, here we go. And we're going to do these up almost all the way. We don't want them too tight.
We want to leave that a little bit loose, do we?
Yeah, so we want to leave it.
We're not tightening them up all the way.
No, because that is a little bit that we do just at the end, and it's a nice way to seal the deal when you're building your ramp. So that's perfect, that's what we're looking for.
That,
Right, a
little
little bit of
play in
movement.
there, yeah.
And then we're going to do up another one, but you probably don't want to see that.
We'll
so
hit fast forward.
there you go. So that's the coping
Ready.
almost finished, but it's ready for this stage. So now what we're going to do is put it
Okay.
onto the pad. So again, always try and keep everything nice and clear so you're not falling over yourself.
Nobody does that at home.
Well, I'm telling you to. So, quite simple. If you come and look closer,
Okay, let's get in.
you'll see the cutouts of the profile.
Gotcha.
So, and then you literally
Drop the coping in.
just sit it in. Now, at this point, I'll probably tell you again later, but at this point, it's really important to make sure that when you come to finalise everything with the coping, you've got an equal distance on
There.
both sides.
And there.
So,
Yeah.
let's have a look. That's probably perfect. So there you go. So that is that process. The next thing we're going to do is the slappy face.
Okay.
Yeah? You happy with that?
I'm happy with that, yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is try and do this back to front. It's a bit easier when it's facing me, but what we're going to do is, again, create some space. So pop that there. And then we're going to start the screws again, like we did before. And again, with your slappy panel, the top. Always make sure that this is at the top. The top must be at the top.
Got ya.
So, we've used all of our big screws, so there's no more
So
confusion.
all of those screws are now the same.
Yeah, so all of these screws are now the same. These are 5x50s.
Okay.
And then we're going to start the screws. Wait for it to rise up off the table. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. There There you go. It's definitely not screwed into the bench. Same again this side. So, nice and clear, keeping everything together. That's where these are coming in. So, I'm just going to make a bit of space. We're going to get these two packers and we're going to put them here.
Okay,
because
so just at the bottom, yeah?
Just at the bottom, because when we assemble this, there is going to be a small gap between the bottom of this panel and the floor. That's so it doesn't chip when you're moving it and when you're riding it.
Yeah.
Okay, so top
Top.
to the coping. And we're also going to use those screws to locate into the holes.
So if I come down here, that's why you left the tips sticking through just a
Yeah.
tiny weeny bit.
So you can
so
see.
you can drop them. Can you show
Yeah.
me the holes on that profile again? So straight into those holes. Right?
Straight into those holes.
Got
There
it.
you go. So then, just under here, you're going to see that that's supporting it, especially with when the screws are in the holes.
Got ya, right.
You should be all right. So we've got one in here, and I'm just going to. You can take these in and take them out if you feel as though it's not right. We haven't done it correctly because, let's face it, there's a first time for everything. So I've just left that one in there, haven't screwed it, and I'm going to go over here.
Just to get this side positioned.
Just to get this side positioned. And then we're going to get those screws in the hole. Now that's in the hole, lovely. And now you can see you've got hands free.
Uh-huh.
So what?
And that just sits nicely on
That just sits lovely on there. Now that is slightly regulatable with this, which is why we haven't tightened up these clamping blocks, but we'll show you that a bit later on. So now what I'm going to do is just wind all the rest of these screws in. And when we put these screws in, if you come a bit closer, you'll see that that screw is like 0.5 millimetre to 1 millimetre just underneath the surface. You don't want the heads poking out, and you don't want them far too deep into the ply itself. So those are the sides. We haven't got really too much more to do. We've got 2 screws here, and then we've got 2, 4, 6, 8.
So it's just the top? Oh, and a bit of steel.
Yeah, 8 screws on here. So we're now going to put the top on. Fairly straightforward. You have your angled edge, which goes towards the coping.
The coping, yeah.
So sit it on, and it will find its natural position. You can start the screws if you want, but because you're not fighting gravity, you can just sit it on there and then send the screws in because they're going to find the hole beneath them. So, more screws. Here we go. See, that's gone straight into the hole. Beware, misses. There we go. And then, so you can see here, this is twisting a little bit. We're just going to push it forward, grip it. You can, again, use clamps if you want, or you can get a friend to help you, or anyone. Just don't talk to strangers. There you go. That's pretty much set. So what we're going to do is if you come here and just...
It looks ready to escape, but...
Yeah, so we've got a small gap here. And the reason we didn't tighten up the coping block is because had we have done that, it would have sort of changed things a little bit here. So now we're going to screw these in. That's going to bring it tight to the coping block. And then when we turn it over, the coping block is going to just really just squeeze everything together. So we'll put some screws in. Can you see that there? Do you see how it's tightened up there?
Oh, gapless.
Gapless. And it should be exactly the same here. Perfect.
That looks fantastic, Brett.
Thank you. That's that bit. I've got 4 more screws on the top. There we go. Nice. So, Final piece of the puzzle.
Okay, now that fits in to
So,
a
yeah,
recess.
I'm going to twist this.
Yeah, slide it around it up.
That's it. And then we've got 3 screws to go through the top here. Again, if you just come a bit closer, quite like the coping.
Make sure we are even
Even.
at either side.
Yeah. You've probably... If you can see that those screws are housed into those countersinks.
Nice little countersink.
Yeah, so that nothing is going to get in your way. When you are riding. And there you go. The last thing to do is, you remember those coping blocks? We're going to turn it over and we're just going to tighten those, and that's going to tighten up everything. So this is what it looks like underneath. Top. And that is. So don't over tighten that too much, just get it so there's a bit of human resistance going on.
That pulls the coping down.
That pulls the coping down. There was that missing screw that was underneath. And there you have it.
Whoa.
A 4-foot slappy box with coping and flat bar on the top. Perfect. There you go. There you go. Happy shredding.
Thank you, Brett.
No probs.